Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and to this latest episode of Depression Help. I hope that you're all at least okay, if not good. It's getting colder, isn't it? Yeah, and that time of year where it's going to get darker and less daylight, things like that. So probably difficult for most people who struggle with depression. So yeah, but that's the joy of living in Scotland. So I'm hoping to escape for some of the winter, and yeah, if you can as well, then that's always a good thing to get away, get some sunshine or at least some warmth. We break from the winter. But the thing I was planning on talking about today was, it kind of ties slightly into last week's episode, but talking about responding instead of reacting. So I talked last week about what our reaction is to something, whether we hit DEFCON 1 and if something's really a DEFCON 1 problem, or maybe if we kind of look at it that way, what's our reaction on the scale of 1 to 5, or whatever scale you want to use. It doesn't really matter. But is it appropriate to what's actually happened? Are we overreacting? That kind of thing. I think that it's always better to try to respond than to react. And part of the reason for that is, if I think that you react, I think that if you react, it can set off a chain reaction. That's obviously a scientific term, and but hopefully you know what I'm getting at with that. I mean, if you kind of, somebody says or does something, you react kind of strongly to it, then they react to your reaction, chain reaction. And I think that can be one of the ways that things can get blown out of proportion. I think it's one of the ways that something that can be actually quite small can end up being quite big. And I think it's one of the ways that, people can fall out or have, long periods where something small has been blown up into something big, and, it's destructive for the relationship, and maybe means that, they're not as close for a period of time or whatever. Just speaking in very general terms. Obviously everyone has experience of that in life, but I haven't had any experiences like that recently that I'm thinking of. So responding instead of reacting, it's much more difficult when you feel like crap, when you feel low. Naturally you're more likely to feel defensive because you're low, because you feel really bad as it is, and it's kind of like a self-protective thing, putting barriers up. Barriers is another conversation for another episode, but putting your barriers up, and basically you're trying to protect yourself because you already feel like crap, and you don't really want to be made to feel worse than you already do. But as I say, the problem with reacting is that it's like firing an arrow back when you feel like somebody shot an arrow at you, and it just kind of ends up spiraling into, like a war of arrows, if you like, or just it ends up inflicting more pain on you and the other person. And I think that responding takes a lot more effort, especially if you're feeling like crap, and especially if you feel as though you've been wounded by the same person or the same situation repeatedly. It makes it even more difficult, I think, to respond instead of react. And that kind of gets into the territory, for me, I think, at least, of PTSD, which is not what I'm going to talk about here. But so I think the main element of responding instead of reacting is learning to be able to hit the pause button. So when something happens, somebody says something, or something happens, and the fact that you feel like crap already makes you want to put your barriers up or fire back, and maybe not even intentionally. You're maybe not even intentionally wanting to, fire back something, with a bad intention. You just kind of, you feel like you urgently need to respond, but is it a response or is it a reaction? I think that's where pause comes in. I think it's good to take pause. Firstly, I mean, sometimes when something happened, somebody said something, or somebody's done something, or somebody's seemingly said or done something, um, it's good to take pause, I think, and make sure that you're definitely understanding the situation correctly. You're definitely understanding what I mean. The problem with written communication, for example, is that 80%. The percentage is very dependent on who you talk to, but around about 80% of communication is body language and tone. So writing is the least effective way of communicating possible. And if you're talking about, like casual writing in text messages or things like that, that makes it even worse. Because you're saying things in a shorter fashion, using less words, etc., etc. And I think it's easier for people to misconstrue, or for people to construe your meaning, or for you to misconstrue what somebody else is trying to say. Um, so I don't think it's wise to react. I think it's very difficult not to when you feel low, but I do think it's an important skill to learn, is to learn to take pause. And basically, um, that can be, I think part of that's taking pause is awareness, is having an awareness of what you're feeling in response to something. So basically the reaction that you're feeling, and pausing for a second and trying to ask yourself questions like, am I understanding this correctly? What sort of person is this? Is this the sort of person who's likely to be trying to hurt my feelings, or is this the sort of person who has a reputation for doing this sort of thing, or whatever? Where's this coming from? Is there a different way I can look at this? Is the person that's sent this to me or said this to me, are they maybe struggling right now? Are they maybe having a hard time with something? Have they had a really bad day? Did they mean harm to me by what they've said or done? Just trying to take pause and give people the benefit of the doubt. I always try and give people the benefit of the doubt. So not just the benefit of the doubt, but twice. And then still, I try not to write anyone off. I try to kind of always keep a door open, because you don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. You don't know what they're dealing with, etc., etc. I think it's really just good to try and make allowances for people. And I think that in general, that shouldn't be too difficult to do. I think it becomes more difficult when the tank's empty, when you've done that so many times, or tried to do that so many times, that you're just done. And I think that's where you need to look at whether the relationship with that person, or whatever, work relationship or whatever kind of relationship, is one that you want to be in and one that's healthy for you, because there's only so much any one person can take. And I don't think that a relationship, whatever kind of relationship it is, whether it's work, social, romantic, I don't think it should be that difficult. If it is, then there's something wrong somewhere. And maybe that's suitability. You're maybe not suited to that person, that role, whatever the case may be. Or, if a lot of people are having the same problem with the same person, or the same, workplace or whatever, then maybe they're the problem. Or maybe it's a combination. So I'm hoping this isn't going to be another rambly one. So basically, taking pause, I think, is like thinking about giving the benefit of the doubt. So I think if you're trying to think, okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, then it makes it easier. That's like hitting the pause button, because if you're just thinking, okay, I'm going to try and pause here, without an intention in it, then it might be more difficult to just kind of pause and take stock. So basically, I think taking pause is giving the benefit of the doubt. So instead of, someone says this or that or the other or whatever, or something happens, something happens to you and you just want to instantly react. I think that's probably, I think responding is kind of, is your best self dealing with something, and I think reacting is probably more likely to be your inner child. We all have an inner child, and when you feel like crap, and you already feel hurt or whatever, or you're defensive because you're low. I think that it's more difficult for your best self to be in the driving seat, kind of thing. It's hard to have perspective when you're low. It's more difficult to be rational. I think that it takes a lot more effort, but I think that it's possible to do that in under normal circumstances. Where you have a normal amount of things that happen that could cause a reaction, but instead you choose to respond. Again, if you're in a situation where people or things or whatever are constantly triggering reactions, then is that a relationship that's healthy to be in, I think, is the question to ask. Unless you're somebody who just reacts to everything, but I think that if you are, then it's probably not fun being in your head, and you're probably on a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And that comes into insecurity as well, which is the topic for another video, and it is on the list. That's quite a big one. That might end up being multiple videos. I need to think about perhaps different types of insecurities or something like that, or different manifestations of insecurity, something like that. So basically, yeah, it's a simple thing, but I think there's a lot of value in it. I think that reacting can be destructive to you and to others. I think we need to be aware that it's much easier to react when we feel crap. And I think that it's a very good, you can change the way that you think, and you can change your mental habits. I definitely believe in that. And I think that to do that, what you need is an awareness of what's going on in your head, rather than just letting things go on autopilot. So react, and just to pause and respond instead. So, and that can be not just things that people say. I mean, I've talked in another video about things happening to you. Like I talked about getting a flat tire, blah blah blah. All these sort of things that come in threes or whatever, happening in the same day. Reacting to that would be, big DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 1 or whatever. Responding to that would be more like what I was talking about when I was talking about what DEFCON level you're at compared to what happens in life. And that would be, well, you're going to get a flat tire sometime. There's never a good time. That's responding to something that's happened. Reacting is like, letting yourself go into fight or flight. Acting as though you need to fight a fire when there isn't actually a fire. It's just something that happens in life. So I hope that's helpful to you. I don't feel like it's a really meaty one, but I probably don't think I could go into a more in-depth one this week. I'm looking at I looked at the kind of other titles that I had, and I think, yeah, they need to be really switched on to be able to do a good job of talking about, for example, insecurity or whatever. Some of the other ones that are on the list are kind of bigger subjects. So, yeah, and I'm all good. Sound rough as always. But yeah, I'm pretty tired. I'm needing a break. Typically, well, rest is another, and time off is another episode. But typically, what I've done is kind of tried to take a break every 3 months or so. So I do work hard when I'm here, i.e., in the country, and then just basically work really hard for a few months and then take some time off and rest, and then basically repeat. And that's worked quite well for me. But because I've kind of come back, and because I'm basically coming back from nothing, I've had to I'm having to work for quite a long period of time without a proper break, because I need to make sure there's enough momentum so that when I take a proper break, I can come back and then not feel like I'm having to start over again, because I can't do that every time I take a break. So, yeah, I'm not going to waffle on, but yeah, all good, just tired. And but yeah, I might try and take, it's not going to be this week, but maybe the following week or something, I might actually try and take a couple of days off together instead of just one. But yeah, things are going good for those who are interested. Just tired. And yeah, yeah, I'm sure we're all tired for different reasons. So, but anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that something in that's helpful to you. And I hope that you're doing okay or good. If you're struggling, hang in there. Been there many times. Could have given up. Glad I didn't. And yeah, it's cliche to say, but you never know what's around the corner, and it's definitely worth finding out. And there is going to be an episode on suicide, which is one of the big ones that I really need to be kind of mentally on top form to do justice to. So, but yeah, I'll leave it there just now, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode, and I hope that you have a good weekend.